Taehyung threw himself into his work with single-minded determination. Every document was meticulously reviewed, every schedule flawlessly arranged, every request from Jungkook met with precision and efficiency. He refused to make a single mistake. If he wanted to survive in this job, if he wanted to earn Jungkook's trust, he had to be perfect. Yet, no matter how hard he worked, he couldn't shake the feeling that Jungkook was watching him. At first, he thought he was imagining it, that the occasional flicker of his eyes, his direction was coincidence, or perhaps just his own nerves betraying him. But as the days passed, he noticed it more often. The subtle weight of Jungkook's gaze, the way his eyes lingered a fraction of a second too long before flicking away. It made Taehyung uneasy, but it also made his pulse quicken in a way he was not ready to admit. One night, the office was nearly empty that night. The hum of fluorescent lights, the only sound breaking the silence. Down at his desk, fingers flying over his keyboard as he reviewed the latest report. Outside the massive windows, the city glowed beneath the night sky. Headlights streaking across the roads like veins of gold. He had lost track of time. Everyone had left hours ago, but he stayed behind determination to finish his work. He wanted to prove to himself, to Jungkook, to everyone that he belonged here. A shift in the air made him glance up. Jungkook was watching him. The CEO sat at his chair across the room, his posture relaxed, but his gaze sharp. Taehyung hadn't even noticed she was still here. Their eyes met, and for a moment Taehyung felt like all had stilled. Jungkook's stare was intense, dark, and unreadable, pulling Taehyung in like a silent force of gravity. It was the kind of gaze that made a person feel stripped bare, exposed in ways they aren't prepared for. Young's breath caught, then just as suddenly Jungkook looked away, his expression unreadable. The spell was broken. "We're working late," Jungkook said, his voice gruff, though not unkind. Young forced himself to focus, swallowing down the lingering unease in his throat. "I wanted to finish reviewing the reports," he said carefully. "I didn't want to leave anything incomplete." Jungkook leaned back in his chair, regarding him with something that almost looked like amusement. "I don't pay you to overwork yourself," he said, his tone cold but firm. "Go home, Young." Young hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Yes, sir." He packed up his things quickly, but the moment still lingered in his mind. As he slung his bag over his shoulder and made his way toward the door, he risked one last glance at Jungkook. The CEO had already turned back to his computer, his expression as impassive as ever. Yet something about the way he had looked at Young, just for the brief second, refused to leave his thoughts. As Theo stepped out into the night, the cool air brushing against his skin, he couldn't help but wonder what had Jungkook been thinking in that moment, and why did he feel disappointed that he might never know. The next morning, Theo arrived at the office earlier than usual, the scent of freshly brewed coffee lingering in the air as he made his way to his desk. Despite his best efforts, sleep had been elusive the night before. His smiles replaying the way Jumbo had looked at him, the weight of that fleeting moment lingering longer than it should be have. He took a deep breath, pushing those thoughts aside. Today was a new day and he needed to stay focused. As he stepped into Jungkook's office to deliver the morning reports, he was surprised to find the CEO already there. The room was bathed in soft morning light, the floor to ceiling windows forming a city just beginning to stir. Jungkook sat at his massive mahogany desk, his posture relaxed yet commanding. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as if he had run his fingers through it absent-mindedly, and the crisp white sleeves of his dress shirt were rolled up to his elbows. He hadn't noticed Taehyung enter. His sharp eyes were fixed intently on his computer screen, a small furrow between his brows. Theon hesitated for a second before stepping closer. His heartbeat was steady, but there was a strange flutter in his chest, an annoying, unwelcome thing that he immediately wiled away. "Good morning, sir," he said, keeping his voice calm and professional. Jungkook looked up at him, his dark gaze looking onto Theon's with an unreadable intensity. There was a brief pause before he responded. Good morning, Taehyung, he said smoothly, his voice low, the kind that carried effortlessly without needing to be loud. His eyes lingered on Taehyung for a fraction of a second longer than necessary, before he finally shifted his attention back to the screen. Taehyung exhaled discreetly, nodding before pressing the reports on the desk. Your schedule for today has been adjusted. You have a meeting with the international board at noon, followed by a private lunch with Mr. Park from Skytech. Jungkook hummed in acknowledgement, flipping through the papers without much reaction. And the legal contracts from yesterday finalized and sent to your inbox for review. Taehyung responded immediately. Jungkook's lips twitched, almost impossibility efficient. The subtle praise made something warm spread through Jung's chest, but he quickly pushed in beneath layers of professionalism. He had no reason to feel proud. It was just work after all. Still, as they went on, Taehyung found himself steering consider Jungkook. It wasn't intentional, or at least that's what he told himself, but something about the older man's quiet power, the way he carried himself with such effortless confidence, was undeniably magnetic. Jungkook never second guessed himself. Every moment was precise, every decision made with conviction. It was frustratingly attractive. At one point, Jungkook leaned back in his chair, stretching his arms slightly as he reviewed a document on his phone. His sleeves pulled up just enough to reveal the veins along with forearms, the expensive watch on his wrist glinting under the office lights. Young forced himself to look away, swallowing. This is dangerous. Jungkook was his boss. There was rules, boundaries, lines that should never be crossed. He had worked too hard to get here, and he wasn't about to throw it all away over some foolish infatuation. But then, as he was flipping through his notes, he caught Jungkook watching him. Their eyes met across the room, and for a split second, Young felt like he had been caught. The air between them was thick with something unspoken, something neither of them had dared to acknowledge. Jungkook's expression remained unreadable, but there was something in his gaze, an intensity, a flicker of curiosity that made the young's blood itch. And then, just as quickly as had come, Jungkook looked away, returning his attention to his work as if nothing had happened. Jiang let out a slow breath, his fingers gripping his pen a little too tightly. He knew he had to be careful. Jungkook was his boss, and he couldn't afford to compromise their professional relationship. Or could he? Because no matter how hard he tried to ignore, the pull between them was undeniable. And sooner or later, something would have a give.